Hi. Why do Mexicans turn their hats up on the front and back? I will tell you at the end of the video. But for now, let's get into the jokes. My name is Bob Hill. I've been telling jokes for 40 years, and that's enough of an introduction for now. There was this hunter, and he was in South Carolina, and he just killed a deer, and he's dragging it back to his truck, and the ranger stopped him and says, "You got a license?" And he said, "For that deer?" And he says, "I do." And he whipped it out and showed him. And he looks at it and he says, "Okay." Well, the next day he's there in South Carolina, and he gets another deer. And the same ranger comes up, and he looks and he says, "Let me check out this deer." And he sticks his finger up the deer's butt, and he smells it, and he says, This is a Virginia deer. Do you have a Virginia license?" And he just so happened that he'd been hunting in Virginia earlier, or a week or two earlier, and so he showed him. And the ranger kind of pouted and left. Well, the next day, he's dragging a deer up, and the ranger comes again. "Let me check out that deer." And he sticks his finger up his butt and smells it, and he says, This is a Georgia deer. You got a Georgia license?" And so he whips it out, and the ranger walks off. Well, all week, every day, that ranger kind of stops him and does the same thing. Smells his finger on this such and such deer. And kind of like by Friday, the ranger stops him and says, "Well, just where are you from?" He turns around and pulls down his pants and sticks his butt out and says, "You tell me." Andy Rooney said, "Computers make it easy to do a whole lot of things except for the important things." There was this black lab and this brown lab, chocolate lab, whatever you want to call him, and a yellow lab. And they were there at the vet, and the brown lab says to the black lab, "What'd you do?" And he says, I've been digging all over. I dig on everything. I dig under the fence. I dig up the flowers. I just like digging. I dig up the lawn, but then I went and dug up the couch, just destroyed the couch, and my owner says, "That's enough." And so they're gonna put me on Prozac. And so the brown lab says to the yellow lab, "What are you in here for?" And he says, "I pee on everything. I pee on the flowers. I pee on the fence. I pee on anything I want to." And I think and then when I peed on the bed, my owner got really pissed off and said, "You're going to put me on Prozac too." Oh, well. "And what about you, Chocolate? What are you in here for?" He said, "I hump everything. I hump the fire hydrant. I try to get to other dogs. I hump everything. But then when the owner was getting out of the shower and I tried to jump on her, and so they're going to clip my nails." The mayor, there was this small town, and this kid said, "Yeah, everybody gets to be a mayor." My dad's the mayor in the town right now. It's kind of decided with the radio station. And he says, "How's that?" Well, my dad was the fifth caller. this elderly woman. She lived in Canada, right on the border, and she lived there for years. She had her 3 kids there. Well, there'd been disputes between Canada and America, what country they should be in, and she'd been in Canada all this time. Well, one day, her son brings a letter in and says, "Hey, we got a letter from the United States government." Well, she says, "Open it. What's it say?" It says, "If we want to be in the United States, we need to sign this letter and get it sent back in." Well, let's get it sent. Let's get it done. I am tired of these cold Canadian winters. The Pope was going to visit this small community, and it was advertised all over. A couple hundred people live there, and so they're going to have a big parade so that everybody could wave and see the Pope as you walk down the street. Well, this guy really wanted to talk to him, so he dressed up in his Sunday best, just like everybody else in the community. They dressed up in their Sunday best, and he hurried, and he got there a little late, but he got there, and he just happened to be by this stinky bum that was dressed up in raggedy old clothes, and he stunk, but here comes the Pope, so he really can't move, and he's hoping that the Pope will stop, at least shake his hand, and maybe he can say something to the Pope, or the Pope will say something to him, and so here comes the Pope, and he stops at the bum, and he leans down and whispers something, and he thinks, well, he's recognizing the poor and the needy, and he thinks, well, you know what? So he gives $20 to this bum to change clothes with him. So he changes clothes, and he runs all the way down to the other end of the line to wait for the Pope. And finally he gets there, and he's there in the ragged old clothes like the bum was. And the Pope leans over and whispers and says, "I thought I told you to get the hell out of here." These 2 men, they were up at the pearly gates, and they were there, and my cat messed up the tripod. They were there talking to each other about how they died, and the one guy was asked, "Well, how'd you die?" And she says, "I froze to death." And he says, "You froze to death? Well, how was that?" "Well, first it was really cold, and I was shaking, and then I kind of got numb, and I kind of, then after a while, it just kind of relaxed and kind of felt sleepy and just kind of drifted off to sleep, and then and I died." And so, how'd you die? "Well, I knew my wife was cheating on me, and so I come home one day, and I ran up to the bedroom, and she was there knitting, and so I just knew she was cheating. So I ran down in the basement and looked all over the basement, and I went up the next door and looked there, and I ran up and looked the next floor over, and when I was running up the attic, I had a heart attack and died." And the other guy says, "Well, you know, if you would have just looked in the freezer, neither of us would have died." Howard, he was a doctor, and he he messed up and he slept with one of his patients, and he'd sit there and he'd pout about it and dream about it. And he knew that his patient would never tell anybody, but it just bothered him. Sometimes he'd just be in nowhere land, and so the people that worked with him said, "Come on, Howard, you're a veterinarian. Get your head on straight. I told you at the front, I asked you at the front, why do Mexicans turn their hats up on the front and the back? It's so they can get 4 on the donkey or 3 on the donkey. You have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Remember, if you like my jokes, subscribe, hit the bell, and share them. In about 2 videos, I will be sharing a lot more of the jokes that I've been sharing for 40 years now. Those are the jokes that are more kid-friendly. So you have a great day, and you see me another day.